Good morning, everybody. I'm Tom Blattner, for those of you who don't know me. I'm the co-founder with Gene Warnock, who couldn't be here this morning, and the chair of the board of the Family Success Institute. And this is a really important day for the family success movement. So I'm really, really glad to see all of you here. Um, Before we start, I want to acknowledge the passing of a true family success champion, Sue Don Diego. I first met Sue when I got to DIFUS in the early 80s. And foster parents and DIFUS caseworkers and birth parents were at war with one another. There's a lot of acrimony and people were pointing fingers at the other, etc. And Sue Don Diego, who was the head of the Foster Parents Association, came in to see me when I first got there and said, wouldn't it be amazing if we could take all this negative energy that's occurring among all these warring partners and turn it into partnerships and good feelings that all benefit the kids themselves. And that was the beginning of a partnership that lasted throughout the whole time that I was there. And I think Charlie continued it when Charlie was there. And Sue Don Diego was a force of nature and went on to moved Foster Parents Association into what is now known as Umbrella, and she became a fierce advocate for the family success legislation. And I wanted to mention her as a true champion of family success, and she'll be very, very badly missed. She's just a wonderful person. So I wanted to start off with that. Um, and what she exemplified was the idea of what can be done if people can take positive energy and put it together and have people talk to one another in an unguarded way, usually over food, but with a lot of fun and a lot of seriousness at the same time, and create movements that are very unusual, particularly these days. And so that I think that this meeting is very, very important. And I'm just going to briefly outline what we're going to try to go through, and then I'll turn it over to Kathy Rowe. First, we have been increasing parent voice in our movement, and the more that we do it, the better we are, and the more we learn, and the more exciting it becomes. So Kathy Rowe is going to give us an overview and bring some people in who have been involved in these regional leadership forums. But if one of our key tenets is bringing community members and parents and family members into the movement, not as voices, but as people who have a place at the table of power. And the more that we experience this, the more we understand how important and critical it is to our movement. So that'll be our first item. Then Tim Carden, our fearless executive director and tireless leader and humble person, is going to give us an overview of where we stand with our legislation and what it's going to take to bring this into being. And that involves all of you in a little different way than you've been involved. Then we're going to hear from Charlie Venti about some ideas about funding, because if we pass the legislation and we don't have funding to bring into your communities, it's just another set of words that don't mean that much. So the funding aspect of this is going to be really important. And then we want to hear from you and hear how things are going for you, and hear how you can join us in this movement to get this legislation through and get the state on a firmer track for kids and families. I think the theme of the meeting is spring has sprung and it's time for us to spring. And the only way we're going to do this is if we can do it together. If we move ahead as sisters and brothers in getting this legislation through and landing it so that the governor can sign it, it's going to take all of us working in a way that we haven't yet. And it's going to take effort beyond what each of us have put in. So as you're going through this agenda today, think about what more each of you can be doing, but I think more importantly, what we can be doing together as a community of interest to move all of this ahead, because this is really, really critical work, not only in terms of support to kids and families, but demonstrating in a time of acrimony and bitterness and horrible things going on, that a group of people can come together with goodwill and actually get good things done. So I'm really glad you're all here, and I'm going to turn the agenda to Kathy Rowe.
Well, thank you, Thomas Blattner. Um, I'm really excited to give you an update and really share with both our new members and our older members what has been going on with our regional training forums. But they really first started when we decided to do community action forums. And we had this, we were intent to not make them just focus groups. We were intent to get throughout the state and hear from community members, parents, family members about what what they needed, not just what the problems were, but what their solutions were. So when we completed over 40 of them statewide, we took a step back and we decided we wanted to do a deeper dive. We wanted to engage community members, and we developed the regional training forums. And those were 4-hour sessions. We did them in 5 different locations to provide some skill sets, to the advocates that we had met during the community action forums. So we focused on parent leadership, family leadership. We focused on advocacy skills and problem solving skills. And you know what? The feedback that we got was, why can't we have more of these? Why isn't more of this information available so we can really advocate for our kids, our families, and our communities? So we did 5 forums, 2 in 2025, Atlantic City and Camden at the Center for Family Services. Atlantic City was Gateway CAP. Then we did one in Brookdale Community College and the Trenton Fatherhood Center. And our last but not least one was in New Brunswick at the United Way of Central Jersey. So
It's on. It's not right there without the glasses.
Excuse me?
Oh, one of my participants recognized you. I'm sorry.
That's okay, because I'm going to first throw it to our video person, and she's put together a nice little set of pictures and videos to give you an idea of what we've done. And then we're going to actually have some of the hosts and participants that are going to share what their experiences were in the regional training programs. So Hannah?
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Kathy, I don't know if you want to talk through some of these pictures. There's 3, and then we have the video.
Sure. This was at the Central Jersey in New Brunswick. We had probably 18 community members come out, and a large percentage of them were Spanish-speaking families. So it was really, really terrific. Charlie was welcoming people. This was Trenton at the Father Center. We had almost 64 participants, so that was amazing. And this was Atlantic City at Gateway CAP.
I'm a parent here in Atlantic City, and I would like to get information, as much information that I can get from different organizations, different programs, and different agencies that is out here. Me being a resident of Atlantic City, there's a lot of things that unfortunately we don't really know about. This was a exercise builder for me, and also a great activity for me to learn and have that experience of engaging with other members of my community.
People at times see many different challenges in their communities. However, they don't know how to bring those challenges forward. How do we articulate them? How do we advocate for ourselves? How do we amplify the voice of the community? So today's project, today's session, today's class gave a sense of community where you felt safe, where you were able to learn how to advocate for yourself and others.
Thank you, Hannah. So that gave you just a little bit of a taste, but now we get to see some folks in person. And I'd like to start with the Father Center. I don't know that Brian's on. He's He's on the West Coast, so it would be very, very early for him to join us. But we have someone almost better, and that's
Thank
that is Yanira Medina, who is the senior program manager. Welcome.
you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm here with one of my participants who wants to talk a little bit about the training that we had here. I'm just gonna turn. He's sitting right there.
Oh, I don't look too good on camera, but morning,
All right.
everybody.
Great, great, Chunga.
Good morning. Good morning, Miss Kathy. How you doing? Nice to see you again.
Yes, exactly.
I wanted to thank you guys for your presentation and just tell you a little bit about what I've learned. That I learned from the program that I kind of picked up. I got a lot of information about advocacy for my family and for my community. And we need more advocacy-based programs because we need dialogue about these issues that's going on and lack of. And we need more community participation and also more resources so that we can develop more skills for gentlemen. I have a culinary art degree myself, so I'm blessed. But some of the gentlemen that I'm in a program with are very, very willing to work and very have the ability to work, but need transferable skills and just regular, basic, everyday skills to navigate through life in the process of trying to gain employment and to stay employed. Basically.
And Chunga,
Yes, ma'am.
think a little bit about how important it is for fathers to be advocates for their family.
It is very, very, very important for fathers to be advocates for their family because, first of all, the father should be the head of his family. He's the protector and the provider. And most of the time, he is the one who has to speak up and fight for the family when nobody else has the power to. So it is very, very important that we empower the fathers with that message and let them know that they do have a voice and that we are important and that we are the advocates of our family and should be advocates for our community also.
Absolutely. Yanira, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I will talk at the end. I have, thank you, Chunga. My daughter here, who is an intern at the Father Center, and come over here. Oh, she is here, Sansira. Oh, there she is.
Come on, Sarah, get on the camera.
Yeah.
So from what I've observed at the event, I've seen that a lot of the clients, they were very engaged and they seemed very satisfied with the stuff that they were learning. I felt like because I do a lot of research with urban communities and disparities, especially around Trenton, it's very important for programs like these, and especially because these clients, they don't have a lot of access to these kind of resources. I just felt as though this program was very important to them, and they seemed like, I'm not sure where else they would get this information. So, yeah, I felt like it was very beneficial to them.
Well, San, if you're just an intern now, we can't wait to see what you're going to do when you actually get out and start changing the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is going to be Gloria F. Tansky she's the CEO of the United Way of Central Jersey, and we hosted a program up there.
Good morning, everyone. Just to remind those on the call, our mission statement is to bring together resources for local families to ensure that all young children in our community attain better educational outcomes and a healthier, brighter, and more successful future. So United Way and FSI convened participants of United Way programs on March 25th at Anshe Emeth Memorial Temple in New Brunswick. Each of our programs was invited to identify participants, as was the Mexican Consulate in New Brunswick, the Central Jersey Diaper Bank, and a few others. We expected 25 guests, but we had 13 in attendance. And the 13 who joined us were parents whose goal every day is to provide the best life possible for their families, especially their children. And from our perspective, we were in search of data to inform our strategy for improving family success. We considered the active sharing on the part of everyone critical to our information bank going forward. We have with us this morning Deborah Cruz, who's our family advocate, physically stationed at the JFK Elementary School in Jamesburg. Deborah works directly with the parents of the preschool and kindergarten students at JFK. And with Deborah is Guadalupe Castro, who is a parent of students at JFK. Guadalupe participated with us on March 25th. And we've invited her to share a little bit about what motivated her to attend and to share some of what she learned. And Deborah will translate for Guadalupe. So, Deborah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Guadalupe está ahí. Guadalupe. She's on. Guadalupe, le tiene que sacarle mute. She was on.
Yeah, she's on.
Yeah, let me just call to talk to. Oh, no, I can't. She's doing. Guadalupe.
Gloria, while she's getting Guadalupe back on, would you like to talk just a little bit about why, what it was like as you being a host? Because I know that there are a lot of members of our learning community that might like to take advantage and host one of these events.
Sure. So it was very important to hear the voices of the participants in our various programs. We operate the Nurse Family Partnership Program, which is a 1,000-day program for first-time low-income moms. So we had a few representatives from NFP. We had representatives from our Alliance for Child and Family Success, which works directly with families that have children ages 0 to 5. We had several from the Jamesburg community. We had representatives from our Family Financial Opportunity Center, which works with income challenged individuals, helps them with to become more financially stable. So let's go back to Guadalupe, Deb.
I see we've got her back.
Guadalupe está ahí.
Sí, aquí estoy.
Oh, okay.
Buen día a todos.
She said good morning all.
Good morning,
Ellos
Guadalupe.
quieren saber
Good morning.
qué te motivó a atender este taller y qué aprendiste o con qué beneficiaste.
Ok, primero, muy interesante el taller, muy productivo.
Very productive and interesting the workshop. Sigue.
Los puntos que se trataron fueron muy importantes para todos.
Ajá.
Y a mí lo que más como que me quedó fue cuando la persona que estaba dando dijo que cuando uno tiene sus derechos en este país, uno
Okay.
tiene que siempre estar, preguntar, no quedarse callado.
Okay, un segundito. She liked a lot of the points that the speakers spoke about, and she goes, one of the most that stayed with her is that everyone has rights and everyone should ask questions. Sigue, Guadalupe.
Y que uno no puede quedarse con dudas, uno tiene que preguntar, ir como hasta donde tú encuentres la respuesta que tú necesitas y quedarte satisfecho.
Don't stay with doubts. Go until you get what you want to solve and that you're satisfied with the answer.
Yeah, ese es un punto que mucho me gustó. El segundo es
The
la
second point she
organización.
enjoyed, ¿cómo?
Cómo organizarse, cómo organizar.
How to get organized.
Sí, que para uno organizar, uno necesita estar como enfocado. También uno tiene que tomar nota, siempre tomar nota de todas las cosas que se vayan a tratar.
To stay organized and stay focused. If you want to organize like a lot of people, then you have to stay focused and take a lot of information down. Write down a lot of information.
Sí, y también para ser un buen organizador, uno siempre tiene que estar con una mente positiva.
To be a good organizer, you always have to be with a positive mind.
Estar con una actitud positiva, siempre como con una sonrisa, tratar a las personas bien, como se merecen, con amabilidad.
She says, this I know because I know her personally. She's a volunteer for us. She says that that we're helping other people should always be with a positive mind and a smile in their faces and try to understand individuals.
Yeah. You know, the other thing that I would like to point out is that, you know, people sometimes call these trainings classes, but they're not, because we have incredible advocates that also attend. And Guadalupe is such an advocate, you know, I mean, despite the language barrier, you know, she just, the sharing that goes on between the community members that attend. It's not just somebody telling, you know, an expert telling you how to do this, but it's people in your community sharing with each other. Try this, talk to this person, do it this way. And I think that's what really strengthens everybody that comes.
A Guadalupe ya está diciendo que estos talleres no son como clases, porque todo de la comunidad, como usted que ayuda tanto y tiene mucho para también brindar a los otros, que esto es para
Sí,
toda la comunidad, no es solo
sí,
dando clases, es también
sí,
cogiendo información de gente que trabajan con otra gente.
sí, compartir información, eso es muy importante porque
Sharing
así tú
information is really
comunicas
important.
a toda tu comunidad y están preparados.
It's good to share the information to the community, that way they're prepared.
Right. Right.
Just on a side note, I wasn't around, so that's why I wasn't able to attend. But she did tell me if they do it again, I could take so much more parents. I want more families to go because she really enjoyed it.
Right. Thank you so much. And thank you, Guadalupe. Thank you for coming.
Muchas gracias, Guadalupe.
Gracias a todos.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last, but certainly not least, is a lifelong community advocate and just one of the most amazing people I've ever worked with. It's Diana Vander Cooperlip, and she's going to share some of her experiences with building community voice. Dee?
Okay. Good morning, and I will not be long because I know you have so much more to talk about. But thank you to those who participated and that you received so much. I'm sure you know that's the heart of what it is that we do and what we try to do. And in brief, in my experience, I've always loved working with the community, the parents, the things that we did. And Tom said something earlier, or someone else, about, having food, breaking bread. And I learned that from my predecessor, breaking bread and just talking with people, even if it was just refreshments, making it a safe place for people to come to and to really talk. This is not AI. I'm sorry. It takes time. It is not a quick fix. It is really taking time with your community, speaking with them, finding out what their interests are, and then being responsive to their needs. And when they say, I always said, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And when, Kathy's talking about the skills on how to problem solve, we ourselves had to learn how to problem solve, even with our community, because not all of our community members were able to just get right into it. You know, what we found out, one of the first things, I'm going to tell you some lessons learned. Not everybody could go and just start advocating. What we found is that some people needed to deal with their trauma, their past, some of the things that got them where they were. So we started doing not just focus groups, but we started doing leadership support groups with the parents, some of the parents who were not comfortable. So we helped them, you know, become comfortable, you know, when we talk about parent engagement. So we took them out of that arena and we started doing these parent leadership groups, allowing them to talk about the things that had built up. And then they were able to come into another arena and talk about it without reliving it again. Okay, now we can tell you what we need, what resources we need, what would have made this experience better for me. And these are the things that we try to do. We try to listen to what the parents are saying, listen to the community, bring in some of the resources and everything. And I tell you, it was wonderful. I actually saw one of the parents I've worked with in the past, Mr. Boyd, you know, on it at this meeting. And I don't know, I mean, Kathy, just he became one of our leaders, you know, and all. But we always did things to help the parents. We made sure they had babysitting. We made sure that they were involved in what we did in the community. We did things like reading proposals. We taught them how to read proposals. We taught them how to go out on site visits, going to the actual community resources, the programs, and then, you know, finding out what it is that they were supposed to do and were they doing it well and how they could do it better. And this way, you know, I know the word is sort of cliche now, empowerment, but they felt empowered. They felt that we didn't just send them out there. They had, you know, resources and weapons that they could use now. They were trained. They could come out. They can ask the right questions. They can give the right answers. And it was just, and then there were some people who weren't comfortable in that arena, but then they still came to our meetings. They might be the person dipping out the food or watching your kids in another room with the coloring book. So everybody, there was a place for everybody to help move the movement forward. But there's so much more I could say. But Kathy, did I give enough information just then?
You are amazing as always. And I just want to thank everybody that came this morning and that shared. It's kind of scary sometimes when you first start talking, but it was amazing. And I'm going to thank everybody and throw it to Tom.
Well, thank you, everybody. And what I can tell you from my long experience in government is when community folks and parents and advocates are sitting at the table, it's a completely different experience than bureaucrats sitting around or policymakers sitting around on high and making decisions for people. It just completely changes the whole flavor of things and everything, much, you know, for the better. So thank you, everybody who presented today and participated in these forums. And we are going to continue to grow the participation of community residents in this family success movement because it's the heart of it. So I'd like to turn the agenda over to Mr. Cardin, who has been spearheading the legislative effort and tell us where we are with the legislation. And so I think somebody asked, what is the legislation? So Tim, this might be a good place to start.
That'd be a great place to start. I want to join this chorus of gratitude to those who just participated in this, and equally to all of you who joined this meeting today for a very simple reason. A foundation of the family success movement, not just the Institute, is a commitment to raising and amplifying the voices of people who have for far too long in their communities and in their own lives operated in the shadows of public interest and public discourse. At the same time, every year and in different ways, government at all levels seeks to impart, manage, and run programs intended to be responsive to those communities and to those individuals. And in too many instances, they fail, and a principal part of that failure is due to an absence of those voices in the room, making decisions, determining policy, setting priorities, determining where money should go, determining what programs should be established. There was a wonderful lieutenant governor, assembly speaker, and all in all advocate for family interests in New Jersey, Sheila Oliver, who passed away a few years ago. And in one of our early Family Success Institute learning community meetings, appeared to say, you need to be at the table and in the room. And if you come into the room and there are no chairs at the table, then you get your own chair and you bring it and you sit down there. That is fundamental to what the Family Success Institute mission is. And the voices that we just heard are representative of that. And it is both our ambition and commitment that they will be heard not only by the 80 plus people here today, but that we will find ways and build their capabilities and confidence to walk into that room, bring their chair if there's not one there already. And there have been efforts, many of the people in the past, there have been many efforts to achieve this, and many of the people in this room, in quotes today, have participated in efforts to amplify and draw attention to those voices and those interests. This legislation that was referenced by Tom, called the Community Recovery and Family Success Act, is now entering its fourth legislative session in an effort to get it enacted. And we are more confident now than we've ever been that we have both an administration that will support it and strong backing within the legislature that will help us get it through the awkward and challenging legislative process. And what does it do? It is the framework, the foundation upon which the state will exhibit and then exercise a commitment to bringing the voices of residents from across the state into the room to determine policy priorities, to determine how best to achieve goals of family success, of raising children effectively from cradle to career, and to do so with investing resources in things, programs, projects that enable families to succeed, that are not designed, as too many of our current programs and spending are, on treating the distress that occurs when families don't have adequate resources, housing, food, education, job opportunities, clean air and water, etc., and good health care nearby. Recreational facilities that are suitable for infants, toddlers, young teens, and beyond. Absent those things that so many of us have enjoyed as privileges, families are far more susceptible to finding circumstances that cause distress. State steps in to start funding that distress and spends vast amounts of money that have less and less effect on building success. This bill, once again called the Community Recovery and Family Success Act, sponsored in both the Senate and the Assembly, and as you will learn shortly, in the governor's office is being briefed about it as well, is essential to saying at this state is not going to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but is going to come off the sidelines and put its money and its mouth where it belongs in terms of developing resources, opportunities to enable families to succeed. And the voices we just heard are the best representatives of those interests in helping determine what are the priorities that are critical for families in Trenton or families in Camden. or families in Long Branch, or families in Atlantic City or Cumberland County. This is what will set New Jersey policy ahead of any other state in the country, because this bill takes us farther down that road of enabling citizen voice to play a critical role than any of the other, and there are many of them, models underway and in place across the country. So thank you all for being here. And the ask today is, as you learn more about this legislation, and we're going to have Laura Matos from a consulting group that is working on helping us get it enacted, share some of the steps we've taken. Find ways to share with your neighbors, your friends, and more important, anyone you know who sits on a council or sits in the legislature, to know that this bill is important to our state's future, not solely to the future of those you are most directly engaged with. Today, as I mentioned, we have the bill in the Senate, sent to the Health Committee, Health, Human Services, and Senior Citizens Committee, sponsored by Senator Vin Gopal from Monmouth County. In the Assembly, we have the bill sponsored by Assemblywoman Shanique Spate from Essex County, and referred to the Committee on Children, Families, and Food Security. And we are extremely fortunate that the chair of that committee, Assemblywoman Shana Hader, is also a prime sponsor of this legislation. Over the 6 years we've been working on this, we have had more than 40 different legislators. Many of them repeat their support. And we need now to make certain that the voices of those here and all that we represent are heard in the halls of the State House to ensure its enactment, which is where we go from here. Central to this bill thesis is something I mentioned earlier, which is how much we spend as a state treating distress and trying to put back the pieces of broken hearts, broken homes, broken communities, and how much less we spend striving to provide those resources and supports that would limit or eliminate or reduce that demand for distress. And we are in the midst of this debate. The Family Success Institute prepared a study 6 years ago that demonstrated how only 10% of our state resources are spent on enabling success, and over 80% of our resources are devoted to treating that distress. And there are a myriad ways in which we can start, not overnight, but incrementally, to reverse or create better balance. And we are really fortunate in the Family Success Institute, and also here, to have among us Charlie Venti, who has served a long career in state government, many years at the Department of now Children and Families when he was their DIFUS, and who has taken time and effort to both contribute to that initial study, but to begin to look at how today we can look at our display or our distribution of resources and begin a process of, again, migrating attention, resources, and priority from distress to success. And Charlie, if you don't mind, I know this is an early stage in your work, and there are some of us here who will hopefully be supporting you as we move forward. If you would share with this group some of what you have been assembling in terms of thought relative to 2026 and our current situation.
Thank you, Tim, and thanks for this opportunity. And I'm going to be brief. My big ask is for any and everyone on the call today. You'll see my email address in the chat. If I stimulate any ideas or thoughts that you may have, areas that we have to take a closer look at, and you'll understand what I'm talking about in a minute, please email me. I'm very anxious to identify opportunities to make recommendations on how we can get a better return on our investments in New Jersey for the benefit of people in our local communities, especially people that are low and moderate income, that have the biggest challenges in achieving success. So I'm going to go through a few quick examples and just to give you the idea. So in 2024, New Jersey residents claimed $1.6 billion in earned income tax credits and federal credits, and another approximately $600 million in state credits. That's over $2 billion that went to low and moderate income people in local communities for their support, help with their support. But similar to what's happened across the country, 20% of the tax credits that were out there were not applied for. So that left about $500 million out there that could benefit low-income families in New Jersey. And there are three primary reasons for that. People don't know they qualify for the credits would be number one. Number two, they don't file tax returns because they don't think that they owe any money, so they don't need to, not realizing that they could file and that they could get a payment back in terms of this credit. And things are very confusing. So New Jersey does have opportunities through the United Ways and other community partners to provide volunteer tax assistance, but we haven't reached 20% of people. And community groups, trusted groups, nonprofits, religious organizations, others, with a little bit of additional support, a little bit of investment, we believe could be doing that outreach and engagement and getting those resources to those members of the community. Another example, New Jersey has 2% of all of the SNAP recipients in the United States live in New Jersey. There's a program to support SNAP recipients, and in fact, there are expanded employment requirements for adults. And there's a program called the 50/50 SNAP reimbursement program. The federal government has about $526 million available to help people. And it's not only for training, but it's for childcare, for transportation, for other needs they have to become successfully employed or to increase their employment. Well, New Jersey only budgets for $3.5 million. If New Jersey budgeted to bring down 2%, because we have 2% of the population, that would bring an additional $8 million into community organizations to provide case management, childcare, and other supports for SNAP recipients. So we're advocating for a more aggressive approach by government to bring resources into local communities. Just real fast, I got a couple other quick ones. There's a 20-year study about the Housing First initiatives in Canada and the United States. In our community action forums, probably the thing we've heard most, and it's no surprise to people, is that affordable housing is a huge issue for families. Well, there's research that shows for every dollar spent on permanent supportive housing for people that are homeless or at risk of homelessness, that there's a savings over time of $2,000 per year per family. So we want to make, $2,000 a year per household. So we want to make sure that we advocate around Housing First or other initiatives that are not only cost effective, that save taxpayer money and get better results. One last, I'll skip over to my one last example. in January of this year, and you can find this online, you could go through the Department of Children and Families website or just Google through the New Jersey Task Force on Child Abuse and Neglect. There's a report that makes a series of recommendations regarding the fact that 70% of the state's child welfare caseload is categorized as neglect, but only about 2.5% of those families have been substantiated or meet the legal definition of neglect. And 67.5% of the overall state caseload are there because people lack the resources they need to provide the basic needs for their kids. So there are recommendations about changing the reporting requirements and eliminating those families from the state caseload. Well, what doesn't appear, and there is some mention of it, is that if you eliminate that, what happens to those families? And we're advocating for local organized systems of support that are funded through a redirection of state funds at the local level to address the social and economic needs of those families that are now being categorized as neglectful, but in fact, they don't have the wherewithal to provide the basic needs for their families. If you just took 5% of the state contribution and made sure that you didn't touch the federal dollars or the state dollars needed to provide protection for kids, if you just took 5% of what's going towards that 70% of the population, that would be about $23 million a year that could be reinvested in community support services for those families. It would be modest, but it would take a significant change in how government is partnering with local communities, supported by the Community Recovery and Family Success Act. It gives the infrastructure for this type of thing to happen. So I'm going to stop right there, other to say that there are a myriad of other research studies, issues that show that early intervention, support for families is the best investment that we can make to ensure that kids grow up and have the best chances at a good life. And if you're aware or have any thoughts about where we can identify additional research or examples of community efforts in this, we want to integrate them into the report that we're working on in this fashion. So I hope I didn't talk too long. I gave you an idea. We're looking to get more resources into the pockets of family of residents, but also looking to get more resources into those service providers and networks that can provide the needed support for those families.
Charlie, that's terrific summary. And it is, as everyone can hear, a complex, digging into a state budget is a complex exercise. And we appreciate both the examples, but also the whole tone of where we have been to date. It's a little bit like you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. With resources, families can thrive. The absence of those and the absence of opportunity is something we have the ability and power to address as a community, meaning as a state. And Charlie's outline illustrates both the challenge of digging through it, but also how significant the financial opportunity could be. I want to turn quickly to Laura Matos, who has joined us and will give us a summary of where we are on our legislative journey, but also mention to all of you that we are anticipating your participation or members of your community, what we call a community action day, a day in Trenton to bring together representatives of family success initiatives, organizations, and communities from across the state to show the legislature and the governor how strong and positive the support for this legislation is. We're targeting late May, early June is the date for that. We'll certainly circulate it once we finalize it. But it will be a day in which those voices we heard this morning, those that are represented here and others will be heard in the halls of power in Trenton, and you have an important role to play in that. So stay tuned and be ready. And I'll turn it over now to Laura Matos. Thank you, Laura, for joining us. She's with Mad Global, a great public relations and governmental relations firm in New Jersey.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim, and thanks everybody for having me on today. I think this may be the most New Jersey participant on a call that we have. I'm coming to you live from a diner. So I apologize for my internet being a little flaky that caused me to have to log off, but I'm back. As Tim said, we're really looking forward to this Advocacy Day. If not all of you know, this time of year in Trenton, setting up something like this Advocacy Day is somewhat of a moving target because we do want to choose a day where we have the most legislators that are going to be in the State House that we can talk to and educate about the legislation and about our efforts and give them an opportunity to meet folks that do this work and also that the folks that benefit from the work that you all do. So like Tim said, we're looking at late May, early June, based on the existing legislative schedule to really make sure we have that critical mass of lawmakers that will be in the State House so we can maximize our time and our efforts in meeting them and talking to them again and ensure they hear directly from folks who benefit from all the work and would benefit from the legislation. I know you guys got a big debrief on the bill and what's included. I just want to say, we are, my colleagues and I are working very closely with Tim and with Dominique and Khalil on, moving the legislation. We have some incredible sponsors. And they are really serving as our champions and helping us, continue to shepherd this through the legislature, working on getting this heard in living committees in that late May, early June timeline when legislators come back from their budget break, and really making a big push to get through to the governor's desk. We've also done meetings with the governor's team to brief them because, obviously what we're trying to do aligns very, very closely with some of the governor's priorities and what she's looking to do in making sure government is working for people who need it. So Tim, I think those were the two things we wanted to just have me give a brief overview on. If I missed anything, please let me know.
I will, and I would just say, Laura played a significant role not only in the ascension, Mikey Sherrill, to the governor's office, but also in the transition and continues to be a close advisor to a new administration, which is extraordinarily helpful to us in ensuring that this idea gets the proper hearing there, and we can be more confident than ever that it will be enacted and passed and enacted. For those who can see in the chat, you will find a reference to the bill, which Hannah Weinstein was thoughtful enough to include so that you can look at the legislation itself. And anyone who is interested in participating in a legislative community action day in Trenton, late May, early June, will obviously get you dates. Please share your name in the chat so that we can reach out to you as we finalize those plans. And with that, Laura, thank you again. And Tom, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you, Laura. I want to just say one thing about what Charlie raised, because when I was in government and now outside of government, I said something that infuriated everybody. The issue is not money. When Tim mentioned that the study we did, that 10% of the money was going into family support, that was 10% of, I think it was like $8 billion, Timothy, something like that. And Charlie, if you started to add up the opportunities that Charlie mentioned about revenue sources to invest in success, it's in the millions or even in the billions of dollars. And then everybody says, well, we can't do this because we don't have any money to do it. We can do this. There's more money in, this is either the first or second richest state in the country. This is the richest country in the world. And we have ample dollars to do this if there's will and if there's skill and if there's intelligence and if there's honesty. So I want everybody on this call to hear what I'm saying, because this legislative day and getting this legislation through and then moving on to implementing it through the funding is absolutely critical in the next step of family success. So Tim is asking you to volunteer. I'm asking you to, you got to be there. You got to be there for this legislative day. And this is going to take effort on all of our parts beyond what we've done. But the return on investment really determines the future of our state. So I'm not going to beg you, I'm imploring you to get involved with this action day in Trenton, and don't buy the idea that there's not enough money to do this. There is ample money to invest in every single community in the state of New Jersey if people have the will and the skill to do it. And so I really want to thank Charlie for his analysis, and he's going to keep digging and find more and more dollars. So with that, Kathy, I think you were going to facilitate a conversation. You're on mute.
That's what happens when you have a dachshund sitting next to you. You have to go on mute. But one of my favorite proverbs is an African proverb, which is a single bracelet does not jingle. And I think that really speaks to what Tom's talking about, which is as a learning community, I want to turn this part of the meeting over to learning community members for comments, suggestions, questions, but to begin to talk together about how we can push this through, because the state is not going to give up the money. We have to together bring a big enough force to get it into all the programs that you've spent your lives working in. So I'm going to open it up and questions, comments, suggestions.
Now, Julian, you can't sit there quietly. You have been a warrior for community support for too long, and we're thrilled that you're here. You work on this every day.
I think I'm struggling right now with my voice. Allergies in my voice.
Well, I just had to call you out. Julian, for those of you who don't know, is the President Executive Director of the United Way of Greater Union County, and has worked tirelessly in myriad ways to ensure that the United Way and her other causes get support from the state, and has a record of success and also a record of failure, because you don't get it in a tough year and a hard time. It takes more voices than just one to get us across the finish line, which is what Kathy's
Tim, we have some hands up. George?
Sorry, trying to get myself off mute while navigating a parkway here. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah, you're great.
Yeah. So, good morning, everyone. So, just a few quick questions and or thoughts. One is I might have missed it. Have we actually scheduled the legislative day yet? Has that actually
late May, early June date? Probably resolved within this week or by early next.
Okay. Second question is, while the report that Charlie referenced is being pulled together, are we able to get some of those key data points he ran through and the sources sent over to us in the meantime?
We can do something. It just started, so I can get you the things I talked about, plus a few others I didn't. I actually have some data on LISC that you have that I didn't mention today, but I can do that. But the report is really in the early stage. Yeah.
Question number three, I got only two more questions real quickly. Question number three is, I'm guessing that for those of us who attend Legislative Day, that we'll have a bit of a, script or talking points generated for, for us that who descend on Trenton.
Yes, we will have materials and talking points.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead, Kat.
And George, we were also talking about working with Brian Evans and the Father Center, which is right next to the State House. So we could meet there, go over, the talking points and send everybody out at once.
My last thing is, I think it's important to insert. So, as some of you might know, the Federal Opportunity Zone Program 2.0 is scheduled to go live in October, the next federal budget cycle. And by the end of June 30th, each state's required to submit their the intended census tracts that will either remain as opportunity zones or, and in some cases, expanded opportunity zones. I think we might be late in the game at this point in influencing where, at least from a locational standpoint, that particular designation process. But I think where we can influence is there will be enhanced impact requirement. And just for those who are not aware, opportunity zones, federal legislation that was, co-led by Senator Booker, Senator Scott, I think South Carolina, if memory serves, that essentially enables pretty wealthy people to reinvest capital gains tax as a deferred investment into opportunity zone funds that in turn, get invested into affordable housing or other, community development real estate projects in LMI communities. Frankly, it's been a severely, I think there's been plenty of missed opportunities there. The first process, the first tranche of the Opportunity Zone program was way too influenced by large developers, large corporations, Amazon trying to figure out where their HQ is going to be. I think there's an opportunity to influence how those dollars get reported and what sort of impact they should have. So those are the conversations I think should be start to be inserted. It very much fits within the FSI frame here.
Thank you. And we're going to put you right at the forefront of the exploratory effort to figure out how to do better with that program in New Jersey. So count on us to be in touch with you on that one, George. Thank you.
We have another hand up, Yana.
Beautiful morning, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate. I proudly represent FSO Bergen. I see Dr. Davis on the call. Hi. But I also am a co-founder of alsohuman.org, an organization that focuses on advancement of disability rights. And a lot of what has been discussed this morning resonates with the disability community. And so I would like to be able to help in any way possible. What truly struck the chord for me was the idea of focusing on preventative versus corrective measures, right? There's so much we could do up front to avoid the cleanup in the end, right? And it would be a lot more efficient from the fiscal perspective. But just briefly, I want to say that there is so much abuse and neglect that is presently ongoing, specifically targeting individuals with disabilities or, most vulnerable citizens of our state. And so I would love to see how both initiatives could work together. We are, obviously representing thousands of families in New Jersey, and we are a strong voice for the voiceless. So I want to see how we could, possibly attend your advocacy day, but also we are planning to have our own as well. And I had posted in the chat on April 22nd from 12 to 3 p.m. in Manalapan, there will be a roundtable discussion hosted by legislators from the Legislative District 12. So if this is of interest to anyone, please join. We're also meeting with Senator McKnight. She was mentioned at the onset of this call, and other legislators to advance disability rights. So if this is of interest to anyone on this call, I very much welcome you to reach out. Also human.org. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. I mean, I think what you bring up speaks also to the funding that Charlie was talking about when they gutted FSOs, which was one of the few funded organizations that actually worked with parents, by parents, for parents with kids.
Yeah, let me just, first of all, thank you for speaking up. And I think that, and Tim and I have talked about this a lot, we need to find a way to partner with you.
Yeah.
If individual organizations that have the same values are advocating for themselves and not collectively, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So thank you very much for that invitation, and we will absolutely partner with you in any way that we possibly can to, to further our goals. And people with disabilities are people in this state like everybody else. And the vision of family success is that every single person and every single family in the state have what they need to successfully raise their families. Everybody, regardless of anything. So thank you very much for that. And I just want to offer one other thing because Anthony Santiago is here, and I'll probably put him on the spot a little bit. But the whole family success idea was born when Charlie Venti and Gene Warnock and I had the opportunity to partner with then Mayor Booker in Newark. And the question arose, are we trying to stop bad things from happening, which is prevention, or are we trying to promote good things to happen, which is family success? And they're very, very different questions. And I think that we really need to ask the question of what is it going to take for anybody to have the best opportunity to thrive in their lives? And that's not preventing bad things from happening, it's promoting good things to happen. So Anthony, if you, and Anthony was put on the spot by the mayor then to get something going in Newark, and everybody said, oh, there's nothing we can do. And Anthony was in charge of something called Super Summer, which was one of the more joyous events that I've ever seen. And somehow he pulled it off. And Anthony, do you just want to say a couple of words about your experience?
Sure, Tom. Thanks for the shout out. Hello to everyone. Senator McKnight. I think we're on a transition committee together for Mayor Solomon, who reminds me a lot of Corey when he first stepped on the scene, Mayor Solomon in Jersey City. Tom, I still think back on those days with a lot of fondness, and optimism about what's possible. Uh, when we started both with the Super Summer program and the Financial Empowerment Center and gave birth to the Family Success Center concept, we none of this stuff was really happening, and we didn't have a lot of money to do it, but we had a solid core team of folks who were willing to put tradition on notice. And so what started from, very humble kind of roots, I think when the mayor's nonprofit first launched, it had like about $300,000. Um, uh, uh, we just, put our heads together and try to identify what community leaders we needed to connect with, engage those folks in terms of what services were missing, and then just work really hard to try to design programs that were centered around community needs and placing those services in locations where the community was, not in ivory towers downtown, but it literally inside housing projects and inside neighborhoods where folks can access those services in both in locations and on schedules that were convenient for people who were working. So I don't know where else you want me to go on this, Tom, but it's certainly great to see how the Family Success Center model has expanded throughout the state, and certainly supporting this legislation that you got before the state now.
Well, thanks. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Anthony, but thank you.
Any other questions, comments, things that you want to share how you think we could expand the learning community, how we can push this forward. Well, then I'm going to turn it back to Tom.
Alrighty then. We're early, so you get some of your day back. I'm going to continue to bug everybody about showing up at this community action day in the legislature. Tim has worked so hard on this, and he deserves to be surrounded by each of you and all of you as you're doing this. And I think if we have the opportunity to come together as our own community, we can really make a difference. And Charlie has demonstrated the issue is not money. The issue is ingenuity and commitment and having a little fun to get this thing done. So thank you everybody for participating today, and we hope to see you very, very soon. Thanks a lot.